Let me take you into the terrifying world of social media and emojis. The series begins with an intense scene where D.I. Bascom and his team raid the home of Eddie Miller and arrest his 13-year-old son, Jamie. Jamie is accused of murdering his classmate, Katie. Eddie and his family are in complete shock. Their reaction is one of disbelief. How could this happen? For any parent, it's almost impossible to accept that their child could commit murder. Jamie is taken to the police station, and as soon as the interrogation starts, he breaks down. He can't even speak properly, and everything happening feels like a horrifying nightmare to him. Every step of the police investigation feels like emotional torture for the Miller family. As the inquiry progresses, Jamie and his family begin to show signs of psychological breakdown. The police officers are cordial and professional in their approach, but that doesn't mean this process is easy for them. A 13-year-old boy facing murder charges and a broken family create an emotional roller coaster. Jamie is given a state-appointed lawyer who advises him not to answer any questions about that night. Jamie follows this advice carefully and doesn't give any details to D.I. Bascom or his colleagues. However, at the end of the first episode, D.I. Bascom shows Eddie a video that leaves him completely silent. Eddie doesn't know how to react. It's CCTV footage from the night of Katie's murder. In the video, Eddie sees his son Jamie stabbed Katie multiple times with a knife and then ran away like a criminal. Eddie was completely shattered. He didn't know what to say to his son. Jamie kept saying he didn't do anything, and Eddie believed him. For a father, it was hard to accept that his 13-year-old son could commit murder. But after seeing the video, everything changed. Eddie knew he couldn't run from the truth anymore. Yet, Jamie kept insisting he didn't do anything. He was in denial. He knew he had committed the murder, but he wasn't foolish enough to admit his mistake. When the video was shown to Jamie and Eddie, the lawyer and the police left the room so the father and son could talk privately. But the case wasn't over yet. The police still had to find Jamie's motive and locate the murder weapon. D.I. Bascom knew he needed solid evidence, otherwise, Jamie could use legal loopholes to his advantage. So, D.I. Bascom began investigating Jamie's past and motives. Brianna, an expert psychologist, came to talk to Jamie and understand why he committed the crime. She started the conversation with small talk, but as it progressed, the entire case took a turn. Brianna tried to understand Jamie's mindset, his views on girls, masculinity, and society. They discussed these topics before Jamie was sent to a secure training center for juvenile evaluation. D.I. Bascom also spoke to Jamie's classmates and friends. Bascom's son told him that Jamie and Katie had no Instagram connection. Bascom realized Jamie was influenced by misogynistic ideas from people like Andrew Tate on social media. Jamie had started believing problematic ideas, like the notion that 80% of girls are only interested in the top 20% of boys. Jamie believed he was ugly and unworthy of being with any girl considered beautiful by society. He had a lot of suppressed anger, which came out during his sessions with the counselor at the training center. We saw how Jamie repeatedly lost his temper and shouted at the counselor, who was literally 3 times his age. During this conversation, Jamie unintentionally revealed a lot. He admitted he had seen some compromising photos of Katie that had circulated around the school. Jamie thought Katie was going through a tough time and believed he could take advantage of her vulnerable moment. He asked her out on a date, but it backfired. Katie insulted him and mocked him, saying how could he even think she would go out with someone like him. That night, Katie started humiliating him even more on social media, and Jamie became so triggered that he couldn't control his impulses. Jamie also told Brianna that there was a time when he could have taken advantage of Katie but chose not to. The way he said it made it seem like he thought he was better than his friends just because he didn't violate a girl's privacy. Hearing this, Brianna realized how toxic and messed up Jamie's mindset was. During the meeting, there was another moment when Jamie's anger erupted again when he heard about Brianna. Jamie was internally scared because he knew Brianna could testify against him. He didn't want to leave a bad impression. But his impulses there was a moment when it seemed like Jamie was feeling a strange kind of joy by intimidating a woman much older than him. He knew this could harm his case, but the way he spoke to Brianna and others made it clear that he was enjoying it. Jamie clearly wanted to be in a position of power. He liked to dominate because he believed that's what being a man meant. His understanding of masculinity was completely flawed, likely because he had learned it from misogynistic figures who glorify toxic masculinity and belittle women. No one could have imagined how deeply the words of a foolish man could affect an innocent mind. This wasn't just a surface-level problem, it was deeply rooted. The entire system was struggling to figure out what corrective measures should be taken to bring Jamie back on the right path. Almost a year had passed since the crime, but the juvenile justice system still couldn't decide what to do with Jamie. Whatever had happened had deeply affected Jamie. and it seemed that no matter how many corrective measures were taken, his life would never be the same again. Jamie's parents and his sister were also living through this trauma with him, and their situation was even worse because they didn't deserve any of this. Eddie and Manda couldn't understand what mistake they had made that led to such a terrible outcome. Somewhere, they blamed themselves for not raising Jamie properly. It was a very difficult situation, and by the end of the episode, it was clear that this entire incident had broken Eddie from within. Many times, Eddie felt that if Jamie had called his mother during the primary investigations, things might have turned out differently. Eddie believed Manda could have handled the situation better, but the damage was already done, and Eddie could never forget the CCTV footage he had seen with his own eyes. It was Eddie's birthday, and some neighborhood kids had written "nonce" on his car. Seeing this, Eddie's anger erupted because he knew what it meant. He wanted to scream and shout that he wasn't a sex offender and that his son wasn't a criminal. But he also knew that no matter what he did, he would eventually have to accept the truth. He knew what his son had done, and this pain would stay with him and his family for the rest of their lives. Eddie and Manda finally had a mature conversation where they understood that they had to accept that somewhere they had made mistakes, or perhaps they could have done some things better. Jamie called his dad to wish him a happy birthday and told him that he was changing his stance and would plead guilty in court, meaning he would confess to his crime. Eddie was completely shocked. He didn't know how to react, but as soon as he heard the word guilty, his emotions overwhelmed him. Lisa told her parents that leaving the shelter wasn't an option for them. They had to face what had happened and move forward in life. Eddie and Manda also realized that this was the right decision because they couldn't run from the truth forever. I think now that Jamie has decided to plead guilty, after his trial, he will be sent to a juvenile correctional center, and the authorities will ensure that before his release, he receives the right assistance and perspective. This won't be easy for Jamie, and he will have to work hard to understand how wrong his mindset was. For Jamie's parents, this was a different kind of battle. Society had isolated them, and especially for Eddie, enduring all this had become very difficult. I think what Eddie's daughter said at the end of the series was absolutely right. They had no other way out of this trouble. They would have to face people and accept what had happened. For Eddie and Manda, it was very hard to accept that their son could do something like this. From now on, they would have to think carefully about every step they take in life. Thank you for watching this video. Please share your experience in the comment section, hit the like button for weekly doses of cinema and series, and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video, and for now, signing off. Goodbye, and I'll be back.